Geno Smith is clearly the starter for the Seattle Seahawks this year, but at age 34, and the Seahawks bringing in Sam Howell, and the way social media talks about quarterbacks, it's hard to know for sure if he is the future of the Seahawks. Before we get into my hypothetical question, I want to know, do you feel like if you had to pick an over-under, how long does Geno Smith last after this year?
Okay, that's a really good question, Sammy, because I would definitely say he's not the future of the Seahawks. I think he's the present of the Seahawks. But at 34 years old, I would not say he is like the future plan for the Seattle Seahawks long term.
You're listening to the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast. I'm Sammy, and with me, as always, is my older brother, George.
Your favorite place to be a fan of Seattle sports. Now let's get this party started.
But I'm going to set the over-under at 1.5 years for Geno Smith. So he's going to start this season. And if we bring in a quarterback, whether that's next year through the draft, this year through the draft, Sam Howell, whatever it might be, half another season of Geno. Do you think he lasts over a season or under a season? I'm going to go under. I think Geno will be the quarterback for one season for the Seahawks. I hope I'm wrong, by the way, because I like Geno, and if he stays longer, that means we had a really good season.
Yeah, but that half's not going to happen. So there's no scenario, I don't think, in any situation, unless he ends up deciding he's fine being like a backup on a small contract, that the half happens, because this is his last year on his contract. So like the decision's kind of going to have to be one of those like, are we bringing you back or not? And I don't think at this point, if Geno Smith has a decent season, he'd want to like be like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'll sign with you guys as like I'll be the bridge this year if he has a decent season. And that's obviously where the whole hypothetical lands, right? Everyone obviously knows if Geno Smith declines, because he declined a little bit last year. He was still
Right.
fine. He was a starting quarterback caliber last year, but he declined from the 2022 year. If he declines again, then I think, it's clear he's not going to be the starter. But it is interesting. The way I wrote it out.
Yeah.
Was,
I'm just going to push back on one thing you said before you write it out, because I think if he has, like, let's say a really good season and we don't know who our future is yet, and I'm saying a really good season, we're not going to sign him long term. I think we'd franchise tag him. That would be like, all right, we're forcing you to stay one more year. Like, that's why I put 1.5 years. Like, that means he had a really good year, but I don't think we'd ever say we're going to sign Geno for 5 years. That's why I put
what
the
is
1.5.
the franchise tag for quarterbacks?
It's a lot of money, but it's 1 year, so I'm saying
I don't know
if he had a really
$38 million. I don't know if they do it. Holy shit, that's a big franchise tag number.
right. It's a huge franchise tag, but it's better than a 5-year, $100 million contract.
I think if they were at the point where they had to franchise to keep him, they would just go young, like whatever, right? Like, I mean, at that point, if he's good enough to like win you a Super Bowl, you franchise tag him. If he's not good enough to win, or you pay him actually, if he's good enough to win you a Super Bowl. If he's not good enough to win you a Super Bowl, I don't know why you'd pay $38 million for Geno Smith. I think the point is, like, the reason I was saying half is I'm not saying that, once again, in your scenario, the half doesn't exist. That's why I was saying, like, if they paid him $38 million on a franchise tag, he's going to play this year and fully next year. They're not going to bench him halfway for a young guy at a $38 million clip, right? Yeah. So my point on that is, like, I feel like he's either going to be the starter this year and it's done, or like if he has a good enough season, you have to re-sign him to something, which is why it gets really interesting at that age. But I've also seen people talk about the fact that he doesn't have as many miles as most people. He was a backup for a solid 6-7 years. His body didn't take a beating. His arm didn't take a beating. I wonder, have we ever seen a scenario like this before with a guy that really like was benched for 5-6 years and then was like a starter for the next 5-6 years?
Probably Steve Young.
But how old was he when he? Like,
I'm not sure the age, but yeah, he like left Tampa. Brett Favre left Atlanta, but I don't know the age. Right, the age
but
is
Brett
the
Favre
factor
was a
here.
rookie in Atlanta. It wasn't like Geno Smith started for like 3 years and then got benched for 7. I'm not talking about guys that like
last year. That's
I guess that was a weird moment, and he didn't play the whole season. I mean,
correct.
You got to consider the fact that Geno Smith played for 3 years, was supposed to be like, he was a Heisman guy in college, and then just was a backup for 6 years, and then started again and got $100 million contract. Like that part, I don't know if we've ever seen like in that exact trajectory, which makes you wonder. Is his? I don't think you can answer this or I can, but I just wonder like, is his body? Has it taken less hits or less beating that he would be able to? Maybe his body is not the typical 34-year-old body. Like he looks healthier and faster and more agile than Russell Wilson right now.
Right, and
who are like the same age.
Yeah, probably say. I mean, Russell Wilson, I think, was like the most sacked quarterback, like by drop back or something like that in league history. I don't know exact numbers. So yes, I think he's probably more agile, more healthy than I can't answer that, like you said, but I would assume since he hasn't been hit as much, that means he's probably healthier. If you let's just say someone is in a car and you get in 20 car crashes, your body hurts, right? If you get in 0 car crashes or 1 car crash, your body probably hurts less. Horrible analogy maybe, but I'm going to assume what you said, that Geno probably is in a better like physical feeling than most 34-year-old NFL players.
Yeah, especially, and like probably better than most 34-year-old quarterbacks as well.
Yes.
Especially. I think, like I said, he does. It's pretty crazy considering the fact that, you know, when we had Russell Wilson and we got rid of Russell Wilson, I mean, the Seahawks timed it perfectly. They got him right before his like lack of athleticism happened. Like, you know, the last year with the Seahawks, Russell Wilson slowing down, but he was like, you could, in Denver, felt like he couldn't roll out of the pocket anymore. He was slow, like looked bigger. But so it's weird, like that happened to Russell Wilson at this age and not to Geno Smith. And it definitely, I would guess, also has to do with your car crash method. Like Geno just got hit way less in his career, played less games, was more relaxed, like got more time to just sit back. So his body probably doesn't have as much damage as, let's say, a Russell Wilson. So.
And he also doesn't rely on his legs as much as Russell Wilson relied on his legs. I mean, what made Russell Wilson the weapon that Russell Wilson was that his ability to, his post-snap, like moving outside the pocket, running around, the razzle-dazzle, like Russell hustle. Like, that's why everyone called him that, was his legs. But Geno, yeah, he can run a little bit, but Geno's a traditional drop back, sit in the pocket, and try to throw darts quarterback.
Yes. But that's that's another reason of why, like,
it could last longer.
Yeah, like he seems more agile and it feels more agile. I mean,
that's fair.
I am interested now, like comparing their, like, I don't know how many rushing yards, for example, Russell Wilson like has been running for the last 2 years in Denver, right? Because it's made it look a lot. He doesn't look like the same player when he was in Denver the last 2 years. Yeah, I mean. Let's see. This is like rushing yards per game. I don't know why I can't figure it out. Oh, he had 300. Yeah, his rushing yards have gone like to the tank. He had 341 rushing yards last year, and in the first year in Denver, he had 277.
Yeah.
Right. Geno had 366 and 155. I mean, Geno Smith had 100 more rushing yards than Russell Wilson in 2022.
Yeah,
for a non-running quarterback.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it shows that the damage can happen on your body.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, I mean, to answer, let's like kind of actually set this over under. I'm going to set it at 1.5 only for one reason, Sammy, because either he's going to start 1 year or more than 1 year. That's why the half, right? Would you say he's going to last two or more seasons or one season? Like, what's your, that's why the 1.5.
I want to get back to the whole purpose of this. It was my hypothetical question, because that will answer this. Which my question that I posed on Twitter was, if Geno Smith has his 2022 stats again, forget 2023.
Okay.
If he has that in 2024 and the Seahawks make the playoffs as well, he was at a 70% completion percentage, 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns with 11 picks, and 100.9 QB rating, which is, in 2022, we're talking about he was like a top 5 to 7, maybe 7 to 10 guy in the NFL. The question I posed was, do you bring him back on a 2-year or 3-year deal again? He'll be 34 years old by the end of the deal. And I think that's kind of...
How old will he be by the end of At the end of this deal, you said, right?
Yeah,
34.
34.
Oh, okay, all right.
So if you sign him on a 2-year, and we're seeing that in the NFL, right? I mean, Kirk Cousins is 36, 37, and just got a 3-year deal. And I think Kirk Cousins is a little higher level than Geno Smith, but it's not the worst comparison in the world, right? Like if Geno Smith was half the price of Kirk Cousins with 2 years younger, I guess it's a possibility. So my thing is, I'm interested to see. With the new coaching staff, it's also hard to know what they actually think of Geno, right? Like they brought in Sam Howell, which I don't know if that means anything or if they're just looking for a backup. And I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback or not. So if I had to guess, though, as of like this moment, I'm going to say this is his last full season as the quarterback of the Seahawks. That'd be my like safe bet.
Yeah. If I was to bet on it too, I'd make the same exact bet. But the question you're saying, if he had the same stats as 2022, is that the season, right? 2022.
Those are some good stats.
Those are some good stats. And you said it's about a top 5 to 7 quarterback. I don't know if this would be my bet, but I'd franchise him for 1 year. That means you're paying him as the 5th highest paid quarterback for 1 season, and then you just roll with it and see what happens. And it's not going to hit your salary cap for 3-4 years. It's an easy decision, and it's an easy math, right? Like, okay, what's the cap hit? What's this? What's that? No, we franchise you, play for 1 year, get your money, and if it works out again, and you're a top 5 stats quarterback, we'll franchise you again. We saw the artist formerly known as the Washington Redskins back then, now Commanders, do that to Kirk Cousins, I think, for 3 years.
Yeah, or if Geno is willing to take the same contract that he took, it'd be a lot cheaper. So if you did like a 3-year, his contract with all the incentives hit $100 million, but it was really like 3 years, $25 million each.
Yeah.
And we had an out last year. So if he wants to sign like a 3-year 75 instead of a franchise tag for 38, you're pretty much getting him for like half the price for for 2 years, or the same price for 2 years, only $12 million more than the franchise. But that's the thing. If he has the 2022 stats again, he might not be willing to again take the 25.
Right.
And it's weird, the way contracts work. They just keep getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. I mean, the franchise tag is like the most unfair thing in NFL football to players. But
I'm actually really good. Yeah, so you're stuck with this. No choice.
Yeah, no choice. We slot you here. But you know what? I guess there's a lot worse things than if you got – I mean, this is so far ahead right now. It's not happening. But, like, if you got franchise tag and got $38 million guaranteed for 1 year, there's a lot worse things that could happen to you in life.
Yeah, he's fine. At the end of the day, I think what's going to be interesting, and I know we're about to do this, if you guys watch, if you go to at the Sports on Tap on YouTube, the link's below on our NFL channel. We're about to talk about what the Commanders are going to do at the number 2 spot. And obviously, what's interesting about that topic is because the Seahawks brought in Sam Howell from the Commanders, right? And we saw Sam Howell first half of the year looked pretty decent. Things are good, but that team was a disaster. I know they fired their coach. I know they've moved on, but like they made a rookie throw the ball almost 600 times. He got hit every game 15, 20 times. It was a shit show. So there's not only, I know that's something, it was kind of a side topic just to throw a shout out to what we were going to do for our other show. So check out the link in the description. But with the Sam Howell situation, it's hard to evaluate exactly what Sam Howell is with how much of a shit show Washington was last year. So who knows? Maybe the Seahawks actually bring in Sam to be the backup for a year or two and think he can be a starter, and maybe not. I think we're going to find that out when it comes draft night. Because if they draft a quarterback, they're obviously drafting a quarterback for the future. If they don't, they maybe actually think Sam Howell has a shot. Maybe they think Washington was such a bad situation for him. So I think we're going to find out pretty quickly into the season and after the draft what Geno Smith's situation is and if Sam Howell's a possible future plan or just a backup or a third string, whatever you want to call it.
Fair enough. We'll find out, I guess.
Well, next time we will be back is on Friday. So make sure you like and subscribe. This is the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast, and we are coming at you 4 times a week, minimum at least. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. If you're on the podcast platform, you can find the video links in the description on YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, you can find the podcast link and all our other channels down below. Thanks for tuning in today, and you know what we like to say.
Thank you for stopping by.
Peace.